So I've been asked to talk about my business. So I thought what I'd talk about is life before I met James. So you can see the importance. Well, there was life before James, as Roy was coining earlier. I wanted to talk about basically how I fell into maps, and the idea of telling my story is for you to think about your story, because your story is what sells you. It isn't the maps that sell you. The maps are great, but they're part of your story. So as I talk about my story, I want you to think about your story, because it's your story, it's my story that I tell people that sells me, and then I do what I do with the maps. So let's get cracking on this. So left school. James will be very disappointed. I hated school. I left with 9 CSEs and 1 O level, but I had one gift. I was good at football, and I was signed by Southampton Football Club to play for them in their youth teams and Hampshire, and I thought I'd made it. And then a year later, we all got kicked out of the academy, and only 2 went forward. So that was the end of that dream. And then I had to find work. So then it was very easy back in my day to find work, because I am quite ancient. So I started working for the county council in the treasury department. That was the most it's horrible. It was awful. It's like walking through treacle every day. So that was the first thing. And then I got promoted into the personnel department, which was a bit more interesting because I was getting the youngsters in, we were training them, etc. And then I realised 6 years into my working career, I didn't like it. And I woke up one morning and I thought, I'm going to spend most of my life sleeping, the rest of it working, and I'll have some social time. So whatever I did work-wise, I needed to enjoy. So I jacked it in, went to America and taught football and swimming on the summer camps, came back and did a degree in leisure management. So that's ready for the next slide, I think. So here's me in my early days with hair. So if you start to think about that, so I started to follow my passion to help people, and that's me in America in the Blue Ridge Mountains teaching football. And then through my leisure degree, I picked up 9 coaching qualifications for sport, and I started to do a professional sporting career in helping people become better at sport. I worked for 2 seasons at a place called Gunton Hall as part of my course, and that you all know well is in Lowestoft. And Lowestoft's not very interesting. The most exciting thing in Lowestoft is the traffic lights changing, isn't that right? So I think it's a pretty boring place.
Don't hold back, Steve.
No, I'm not going to. I thought, following your lead. Sorry?
Traffic lights got stolen.
Oh yeah, they got stolen. Yeah. So anyway, so I spent 2 seasons teaching all these variety of sports and organising 600 holidaymakers every week in sporting activities and competitions, etc. And then I came back, and then I had to get a proper job. So I started at Gloucester Leisure Centre, and I started organising their sports activities. And I spent all the adult training programmes in sport and all the junior training programmes, the kids programmes, etc., school holidays. But this is to your point about Tina Turner. One of the things about our sports hall was it converted to a 2,100-seater arena, which we could host concerts. So that's how I met Tina Turner. So I put this slide in after Kate grilled me, just to keep you in the picture. Yeah. So Tina Turner came, and I had to look after her because her bodyguard was ill. So I had to look after her all day, and then watch her in concert, and then guard the door afterwards. So that was my claim to fame. But we had 3 degrees come, and they sung Happy Birthday to my sister. And then Culture Club were interesting because actually I spent more time hooking people out of the audience because they were fainting than watching the concert. So it was quite entertaining, quite interesting. And then we had international sporting events as well, etc., etc. So that was quite interesting diversion from my day job. And then I thought, actually, I need to move. Every 3 years I get an itch to move. So I had to move, and I came down to Fareham, and I did the same thing at Fareham Leisure Centre. They built this brand new leisure centre, and basically I had to manage it. And then 3 years into that, I got tired of local authority, so I thought, I need to move again. So I started to look in the corporate arena, and I joined an organisation called Cynamid. Now Cynamid in Gosport were the biggest employers, probably 2,000 to 3,000 people, biggest employer by a country mile. And during that time I was with them, we had a corporate gym which they'd built for their people, but they were under threat of a takeover from American Homes Place. And at the time I was doing a diploma in management studies, and one of the things I wanted to do was keep my job. So I dedicated this 10,000 word dissertation to proving that corporate health facilities benefit fully anybody who does it. And I studied sickness levels 2 years prior to them opening the gym and 2 years after, and demonstrated that we were saving roughly 2 days per employee every year, which extrapolated through. At the time it was £500 or £600 in lost productivity sickness cover. So I demonstrated we could build the facility 3 times over if all the people who were in the club were getting that benefit. Unbeknownst to me, this got published, and I started winning awards for it, especially in the leisure industry, because they've been trying to validate corporate health for a long time. So this is the study we did, and then that led to Sports Industry magazine promoting it, Body Life promoting it, and I had to go up to the CBI and give a talk at the CBI around actually corporate health facilities value to business. So you can see where the thread's coming now with motivation. Actually, I was already doing this sort of stuff and looking at what drives people and how you can benefit. So I spoke at the CBI, and I remember actually that was one of my first presentations. I was a sports coach, but when you have a rostrum and they turn the lights off and you can't see anybody, talking to a room with people you can't see, bloody hard work, isn't it? So I really struggled, to be honest with you. But anyway, I got through it. Anyway, so that led on to, again, the Sports Industry magazine. But then suddenly we were getting picked up mainstream. So PPA Health then gave us an award for what we'd done. And it started to take on a life of its own, to the point where I had to go up to the Leisure Industry Week and present it to 8,000 people from the front of the room, what I was doing. And then at the gala dinner, they gave me this award. Now, the award is great, but what the award led to was even better. So then I got presented that, but the chap who presented it to me was a guy called Sean Phillips, the Operations Director for Fitness First PLC. Now, Fitness First PLC at the time had about 4 or 5 clubs, 6 clubs, weren't very well known. And he said, look, tell me why you've won this award. So I sat down and explained it. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm going back to, he said, come down and see me, I've got a job for you. And that was down in Bournemouth, at you'll know the Queen's Park, down at the Queen's Park. So he said, I want you to take over Fareham. It's a bit of a mess. We've cocked it up. The manager's left and all the staff are going to leave. I thought, well, that's a great job, isn't it? That's a really good, thanks, mate. So anyway, I had to go in and sort out the crap, and then 3 months later got it sorted. And then I was on the road opening clubs for Fitness First, all over the country and then all over the world. So we had a 6 or 7 year journey where we went from probably being unknown to the largest in the world. So I experienced fast growth and all its nightmares and all its glories. And I left when I became that demotivated employee, because when the city got hold of it, it completely changed. Overnight, it just changed. It was all about reporting, my salespeople reporting every 15 minutes so they couldn't do their jobs. It just didn't make any sense to me. I was getting to lunchtime and I was exhausted. So I quit, and I spent a bit of time dabbling with coaching. And then I met Roy and his team at Sherlaw's. And I joined Sherlaw's, which were an Australian outfit that come to the UK, and they specialised in fast growth. And I looked at all their tools, methodologies and techniques, and it mapped perfectly my Fitness First journey. So I thought, I've got the toolkit and I've got the experience. So I started working with clients with Sherlaw's, and it was really good. Their tools were great, weren't they, Roy? Yep. They didn't have much depth in them, but they were good. But I got to the point where I noticed there's something not quite right. And the bit that wasn't quite right for me was actually you can have all these tools and techniques, but if you can't keep your talent, you can't attract talent, and you can't manage talent, and you can't get the leadership right, you're not going to grow a company, because if you can't attract and keep people, you're stuffed. And that's about the time, I think, that we met. So this is the enlightening moment for me, where my life changed. And I met James. Now, James and I were both at Business Link at the time, and we used to go to this 4 to 6 o'clock club where we'd eat all the sandwiches and then pretend we're doing business. Is that right? Yeah, quite nice. They were good sandwiches. Anyway, we got talking, and one of my colleagues Did a bit of work with you, Mike. You know Mike. And then we came to this kind of thing that you had, this motivational tool. So I started to look at that and it started to click in for me. If I go to the next slide. So I'd done training, I'd done what everybody does when they go into personal development. I've trained with Richard Bandler, spent a weekend with him with 20 people where he completely destroys you and rebuilds you. That was fun. And then I was working with Paul McKenna, the hypnotist. And then I was the keynote presenter for the coaching academy at the time and another coaching body. But it all changed when I saw MAPS, because MAPS made sense of all of this. It made sense of coaching, it made sense of NLP, and it made sense of language patterns, etc. So it was perfect for me. It deepened my insight and gave me something I could take to the market. So what happened next was I worked with Business Link, because actually what happened with Business Link, I worked with their leadership team before Business Link collapsed and closed. I wasn't the reason they collapsed, by the way, just so you know. They were folding anyway, but they had a bunch of consultants, and I worked with the consultants to help them find their next jobs. And one of the people in that leadership team, the leader, went to work for the Royal Mail. So I started working with the Royal Mail. The Royal Mail, she then worked for the Royal Mail. Then she got invited onto the task force team, the government task force team looking at employee engagement about 2010. So I was then drafted in because of the motivational maps, really, onto the task force team, and I spent 3 years with the task force team co-chairing it, and that led to lots of opportunities. It also led to me building a course around culture and engagement so I could take it to organisations. So the next thing that happened, and this is all due to MAPS, was actually I was on that task force team. It was co-chaired by David McLeod and Nita Clark originally, then by myself. And then it started to get me some national influence on what I was doing. Then some of the people I was working with were working for Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton then got the Growth Accelerator program. Those of you remember the Growth Accelerator program. So I then got invited up to Euston to present to Grant Thornton, to present some stuff for them. I won the ability because I presented MAPS, nothing else. MAPS was the reason it got in. And that led to me actually shooting fish in a barrel, for want of a better word. I had to go up to London. I was paid to go up to London to run 2 sessions, one in the morning on More for Less, which is systemisation of your business, and in the afternoon, high growth teams. Now the high growth teams was interesting because I could use MAPS in there, and every one of those people in the room had matched funding to spend with me. So not only was I getting paid, but I was also getting positioned to be paid even more. So that was great. And then that took on a life of its own. So then Oxford Innovation then said, look, if you're doing it for Grant Thornton, come and do it for us. So I was doing it for them. So this is the point I'm making here. It's all about the MAPS. The MAPS were the thing that would defined me, got me the position in here. So I spent 3 years, well, it was supposed to be 3 years. It was a year and a half, and then it was cut, the funding. But great year and a half just working. But during that time, if I can get the thread right here. During that time here, I built a course. I built a course on the culture of organisations, and I took it. Thank you. I took it down to the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth, and I presented it to a bunch of business owners. One of which was Warren Munson from Inspire, and another was Ace Technology. And because I had the funding, I was able to do a year's contract with both of those companies, and we started to get success. And as a result of that success, they started to win awards, and it was a really amazing thing because this company here were 200 staff, 18.5 million turnover. Within a year, we'd projected that through to 23 million. So the success was really interesting. And then James and I hooked up to write this book. If you remember James. So we hooked. Yeah.
Did we do that?
I don't think we did it, no. So we hooked up and wrote this book, basically around what I was doing. And then you'll see Simon is there, jumping for joy with me at the Bond store. What happened was we went up to Euston, didn't we? And we went up to Covent Garden, presented it, and did a book launch. And Simon sponsored it along with Warren Munson and Ellis Jones. So it was quite an interesting journey. And then what I'd like to say with maps is, the reason I'm telling you this story is I want you to think about you telling your story. There'll be a thread for you around why you do what you do. So don't talk about what you do and how you do it, talk about why you do it. If you can talk about why you do what you do and why it excites you, that's what people are going to buy. They buy emotion, they don't buy anything else. If you're selling what you do and how you do it, you're a Me Too company. If you sell why you do it, you're different completely. So get your story clear is the key. And this just led to me going out to, that was Abu Dhabi, I think, with Etihad's. That was the EOT conference, the Employee Ownership Association conference in Liverpool a few years back. Now let me tell you a story quickly about that. I put in to be one of the people who presented, and they had 800 people turning up. I was going to be one of 4 breakout rooms. I ended up in the main plenary because actually 600 of the 800 wanted to come to my session. Okay, and it was all only because I was talking about culture and maps. I was talking about wheel of engagement and maps. So you can see the power of maps. People want to find out how to motivate people, especially EOTs, because they have people who are invested in the business. Okay, so that was interesting. And then I went out to, like I said, Abu Dhabi. I was going out to Dubai as well, but that all fell through in COVID. The person who was getting me out to Dubai and Kuala Lumpur and places like that lost his job, so I lost the contact. Okay, so the other thing with this is actually you've got to build your collateral. You've got to build things that you can leave with clients. I've got a few books, as you can see, but some of this other stuff you've got to leave. You've got to build some collateral that you can take with people, and you can leave it with people because they're going to remember. That's going to sit on their desk. They're going to look at it, and that's going to remind them of you. That's going to keep you engaged. So it's just building that collateral. And I'm going to talk about what's next for me now. So I'm going to reposition my business. I can't tell you what it is now, but I'm going to reposition my business because I see the next wave coming of what's going to happen, and I want to be ahead of the curve. But for me, this year, I won a bid for Solent Leadership Network. So I'm going to work with 20 fast businesses, 20 EOTs and 20 charities paid for by the Solent partners. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to do is I was approached at the beginning of the year by a major bank to run networking for them. I was approached by a leading accountancy firm, top 6, to run networking for them. And I was approached by a university to look after their alumni, which is 400 businesses. So I thought, well, it's no point me trying to do all of those things. What I'll do, I'll get them all in a room. So I got them all in a room and said, let's do this together. So we're now going to build something that taps into the bank's clients, taps into the accountants' clients, and taps into the university's clients. And I'm going to build it on a subscription model. So that's what I'm going to do next. And what's the first thing do you think they're going to do? Is maps. Yeah, that's the first thing they're going to do. So that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to expand my motivational offering and change it. I'm going to change it right now. So those are the kinds of things that I'm involved with now. But what I really wanted to get to, and this is more important than my story, is what I've learned along the way. So I've got 10 minutes left, great. So I've learned that you've got to stay focused. You can't, there's lots of shiny things. Don't get distracted by shiny. Know your story, know what you're good at, know your lane, stay in it. Second thing is total belief. There'll people who'll tell you can't do it. There'll people who'll challenge you. Stick to your guns. Third thing is stay in context. Understand, actually, there's lots of stuff that comes and interferes. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to move towards? Learn to wrap the maps around. You can sell the maps, but if you wrap them around other things, you can embed them as the jewel in the crown. And then getting your positioning clear. And I want to spend the last bit of what I've got talking about positioning with you. So I wrote this book with Sherlaws, and Roy and I were chatting earlier, and I said I got really stitched up by Darren Sherlaw because he used to run conferences, and then he said to me, can you talk about generating revenue? Well, I said, yeah, sure. Can you give me the information? He said, oh no, you'll have to design it yourself. Now he's supposed to be teaching me, isn't he, Roy? So he stitched me up. But anyway, I came up with this model for generating revenue. And this is what I run my business through all day long. So the first thing is you have to have a clear purpose. So clear purpose is your story, why you exist, why you do what you do, and the vision. The second thing is you have to be relevant. Right now, you can get the best people in the world talking about training and subjects, specialist subjects, free of charge on YouTube. So why would they use you? You've got to think about why you and stay relevant. The third thing is you've got to outclass the crowd. So you've got to get your positioning clear in the marketplace. So what I mean by that is actually you can have the best purpose, you can be relevant, but you've got to understand who are your target market. Next, even though you've got your target market clear in your mind, you've still got to find clients. So what's your process for finding clients? You can see my process. I talk about in the book, it's supermarkets. I don't get clients myself. I do talks for other people who put people in the room, and I just go and do an energy raiser, and as a result of that, I tend to get business. Or not, depending on they like me. So the inspire bit is actually you found the client, now you're in front of the client. How do you make sure you close the deal? How do you inspire them to buy from you? And if you've done all of that well, your challenge will be capacity, time. How are you going to get your time sorted? How are you going to do what you need to do and deliver that fantastic service, because that's the next thing. Managing your time, service. Now, if your positioning's wrong, outclass the crowd, then you'll have all the time in the world, or you'll be having tea with people who will never buy your service. If you get this right, your challenge is going to be here. Okay, so just do a tick cross neutral for your business. Where are you strong? Where are you weak? Where do you need to put your focus? Because if you get this right, people will buy from you again, and people will talk about you. And that's the simple model in the book. Okay, very simple, very easy. So what I thought I'd do is I'd start with looking. How long have I got? 5 minutes? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Okay. So let's imagine this. It's not the Wi-Fi code, it's a silver tray. Imagine that's a silver tray. If I sold that in a car boot sale, what would it be worth? What would you pay for it in a car boot sale? Sorry? £5. Sold. £2. Have you been outbid? If it was in Pride of Place in Bournemouth High Street or somewhere like that, what would you pay for it in a jeweller's? 25. Okay. If it was in Harrods, Pride of Place, what would you pay for it? 100 at least. So it's got nothing to do with this, it's got to do with the perception of it. So this is how you have to think about your business. How are you going to position your business so people perceive it in a certain way so you can get the business you want? So I call it the silver tray approach. So it's not the reality of the product at all, it's the perception around it. So if I take that a bit further, this happens in coaching, right? We get a great product, we're brilliant, we spend hundreds of thousands of pounds learning how to do it, and then we give it away for nothing, okay? Or someone undercuts us. So we don't want to get into the price war. We're in an era of simplicity. People want to know quickly what you do. They haven't got time to think. So I think I'll leave this one. I'll come back to you if I've got time. I'll just quickly show. So you've got British Airways and EasyJet. They do exactly the same thing. They get people from A to B. But British Airways look at high-end product, high-end market, high-end pricing, and should be high-end service. EasyJet, I say should. EasyJet, basic, second-hand planes, second-hand airports. Yeah, cheapest chips, market, anybody who'll fly with us, low cost and no service, bucket seat from A to B. Okay, so both do the same thing, do it different ways. Fitness First, we called it the market because we had a strong product. We made sure it was as good as David Lloyd and Holmes Place at the time. We wanted to go for affordable, but we called it the whole market because actually everybody gravitated down. I'll talk about that in a second. And then we went for an affordable price and a strong service. So our coin was affordable fitness, and that's how we cornered the market. Everybody who was a David Lloyd member at the time or a Holmes Place member were paying £60, £70 a month. They looked at our offering at 30 and thought they were getting the same, so they gravitated down. Everybody was paying £3 at the time for a leisure centre offering where the lockers didn't work and the showers were broken. Gravitated because they could afford £30. So that's why we cornered the market, purely on affordability. So the same thing applies for you. Work out where you position your business, what you want, and how you're going to do it. Now, one of the ways to do this is to look at this model here. So I could walk in to sell my services, and I could say, right, I'm professional, I deliver on time, I'm qualified, I'm personable, and I'll do a damn good job. And if I get all that across in a sales meeting, what do you think will happen? Do you think I'll get the business? What do you reckon? No, because as they walk out, they'll be saying, we're seeing 6 other coaches today. Will they all say the same? Yeah. So I've not positioned myself at all. That's just the me too stuff. Everybody can do that. So what makes you different? So here's a quick example. Here's a printer I was working with. So I got him to list all the things that he thought people bought him for. And these were the things that everybody would expect to buy. What he was offering that was different was on time, relationship stability and consistency. So you've got to work out what sits above the line, not below it, in order to work out what your offering is and why you're different. And if you could major on that with your story, that's how you'll get the business. Does that make sense? So finally, if you're unsure of this, just start asking the people you work with, your colleagues, look at your competitors, highlight their USPs, talk to clients. You'll be surprised what clients tell you about why you're good, and it won't be what you think. So get them to tell you, you could have bought anybody, why did you buy me? And you'll find some real truths, and those truths are your positioning. That's what makes you extra. Okay? So I think I've got through almost to the end. I've got this slide coming up in a second. So that's me, thank you. Newsletters and LinkedIn there. But I wanted to say thank you to James and Linda. And then we've got this little slide I made. It's just me. You have to humour me. So just down the bottom there, okay? There we go. Thank you.